back to a new episode of The New Unfiltered. Now, most of you know that I am obsessed with working out, and I have been in the working out class vibe mindset for years, even like pre-class pass. I've also just as an entrepreneur always found that working out for me is like the only way that I can keep my mental health in check, my kind of lifestyle in check. And so a workout that I actually found maybe a year ago now was called pvolve, And now this workout in particular I'm obsessed with because I first went to the LA studio and I remember leaving and I did not like it on the first class. I was like, why am I not sweating? Why am I not like heaving with anxiety? You know, when you leave a Barry's class or like a Soul Cycle or anything, CrossFit, I'm like drenched. And then I went back and on the second time, I was like, I fucking love this. And so I am honored to have the founder of pvolve, Rachel Katzman, to talk about her ripe young age, under 35, this empire you've built. You went to the new school for one day.
One class.
One class.
Yeah.
And so I have so many questions for you. But right before we actually started, you mentioned about your routine. And I would love to get into how you actually have built pvolve. Jennifer Aniston is also the spokesperson for the company, so we'll get into that. But the evolution of growing up in Michigan and now starting this company, and it's really revolutionized fitness.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I love that you went back for your second class. We always say it takes about 3 times, right? Because you aren't drenched in sweat. It is a different feeling. It is something different than maybe more traditional fitness that's out there. But really, this idea started, I was in my early 20s, so I was living in New York, and just woke up one day, and I was like, I don't recognize who that person is. Like, in my body, I didn't feel good about myself, and so I started bouncing around to all the different boutique studios all over New York, and really found that 2 things were happening. One, I physically wasn't seeing the results that I wanted, and then number 2, my back was in a lot of pain. I went to the doctor. I found out I had scoliosis that was really getting flared up from all these, high intensity workouts I was doing. And like so many people just kept pushing through that pain because I wanted to achieve, a certain physical look. I end up walking into a studio in Soho and they're training in this functional fitness world. And I've never heard of functional fitness before. But I liked it. My body felt good. And very quickly, I started physically seeing what I wanted to see. And more importantly, my back pain went away. I felt stronger. I felt energized. I didn't walk out feeling depleted. I felt like, oh my God, I have so much energy for my day. And I felt like I found this kind of answer of, I can look amazing, but I feel 10 times better. And it's, the more and more I started talking to all different women, whether it was girls in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, my mom, her friends, it was always, oh, I don't go there because I don't see results anymore, or I can't work out because I'm injured, or I stopped working out at the gym because I got injured there. And I felt like, ooh, like functional fitness with this resistance equipment, like I feel like I found this answer. And it really just changed my body, my mindset when it came to fitness. And I felt like I wanted to and needed to really share that with so many other people.
So growing up, was entrepreneurship something?
Yes. In my family, yes. Okay. My dad, my brother was like starting his first company in my mom's basement. Him and his friend were like 16. So I think I've always been around that, like business conversation, definitely at the dinner table growing up. But it didn't, like realizing that didn't really happen for me maybe until I started this, like that's just always been around me growing up. I really had no idea what I wanted to do until this kind of aha moment. I had such a personal experience with this method, and this really just taking over like every being in me and wanting to share this.
What do your parents do?
My dad is an entrepreneur. He's in VC and has started companies and invested in companies. And same with my mom's family. So definitely on both sides. But so I've seen like an idea and how that can really come to life. I've seen things fail. I've seen things succeed. But I think, looking back, I remember I'd always come up with ideas like, oh, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. My dad would always challenge me of like, well, what makes that different? Like, you can't just be, oh, I'm going to come out with T-shirts. It was, well, what makes your T-shirt special? What about them? And it's, okay, I'll come back to, but trying to like think outside the box like that and really, I think there is room for everybody in certain categories, but it's always what makes your product stand out and how is it different.
So you grew up in Michigan, small town. It's kind of a small town, right?
Ish, yeah, I would say so.
And I was just in Ann Arbor, I think it was last week or the week before, and I really did not like it. I was only there to go to the University of Michigan. But I always had this expectation that like Ann Arbor was going to be so cool. I haven't seen where you're from, but I grew up in a super small town in Eastern Connecticut. And I'll say the mindset of small towns and then coming to a big city, it's like a night and day difference. So was your first stop New York when you left Michigan?
Yes, I knew I wanted to get out of there.
Why?
I think I didn't want to go to U of M, I didn't want to I think I wanted to expand and maybe see other people and see what else is out there in the world and just venture out. I think I've always kind of, what is it? Beat the my mom always said that. I can't think of the saying. But I always was just like, oh, if they're doing this, I want to do that. If everybody's going here, no, I want to go over there. And New York's close enough from home, but far away from home. And I feel like a lot of people either go to Chicago or New York. And so I picked a school I could get into and off I went.
For one day.
For a day of class, yeah. I think 17, 18, my priority was not school. I just wanted to have fun. And I did. Mm-hmm. And, my parents were like, okay, you don't have to go to college, no problem, but you got to get a job. Yeah. And I just wasn't, I think, in the mindset yet of like really ready to enter into the real world. And so I stayed in New York for about a year. I moved back to Michigan, and then I got a job in the fashion world and moved back to New York around 2021.
So were your parents then helping during that time? Because how were you living in New York at such a young age?
I kind of faked going to school for about 6 months-ish, and then I got caught, and then you got to get a job, and then it was, okay, no, it's time to come home now.
And during that time, were you like, I don't want to ever work for anyone else?
I think that wasn't in me yet. Yeah. I was 18. I just wanted to have some fun and cause some trouble. But I think now looking back on it, I'm like, I'm such a grandma now. Everybody's like, you don't want to go out? I'm like, it's out of my system.
Oh my
God,
I'm
good.
I moved out and went to New York when I was 17 and did the whole also didn't go to college, broke starving artist thing. And when everyone says about partying, and I'm like, you guys don't realize, I was doing the fake ID thing before fake IDs were even a thing. Yeah. The things I saw on the back of these clubs, you have
no idea. And
everyone's in their 30s, and you're 17 trying to be cool, but you're like, this is so illegal, and what is drugs, and why are people doing these things? So I remember that. So you go back to Michigan.
Yeah.
And then what happens in that year of time?
I was just really trying to figure out, my parents, what I wanted to do. My parents were like, you don't have to go to school. That's fine. It's not for everybody, but you have to get a job. So what field interests you the most? And I thought at the time it'd be more in the fashion world. Again, had no idea what I wanted to do. So went back to the city, got a job in that world, and then really, pvolve and this kind of all just happened and really started it, down and dirty. And really, the brand you see today is definitely not how it started out. We launched in November of 2017 with maybe 20 workouts online. I taught myself how to edit them, and there wasn't no microphones or lights or anything, but it was just, let's really see if people are looking for a different way to work out, are wanting these, different results from a workout, and really just testing and getting some feedback before we started, investing more into the brand.
I would say that the boutique fitness world now, the way that it's evolved, and maybe you can also chime in on this, I've seen a lot of really awesome stuff from it. I've also seen a lot of really negative stuff from that world. And I think so many young women, myself included, I've never met actually one woman that can literally stand in front of the mirror and just be like, I'm obsessed with every part of my body.
Yeah.
And I think people say that, and I'm just always I don't know how that's possible. I think that's awesome. But I think in this day and age, with social media, with dating apps, with, magazines and everything, it is so much harder for women to feel so confident in their body. So growing up was body image. You said you weren't getting the results you wanted when you were in New York doing these classes. Was that a body image thing? Were you trying to tone up?
Yeah, I think realizing you can't eat and drink and do all the things you did in high school and still look like that. And then you're like, whoa, it just catches up with you one day. Okay. And I think what's really interesting is even the girls younger, like working out is such a part of their lives, like even from, college to early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s. But I think it's also like a health reason too. Yes, obviously, if I'm working out, there are looks involved and I might want to tone up or I might want to, build strength and all these different things. But that wasn't for me. When I was in my early 20s or late teens, there wasn't maybe Pilates. But so for me at that time, definitely more of a looks confidence thing. But as I've learned more and as I've gotten older, for me, it's really more of feeling good in my body and feeling strong in my body and really waking up and being mobile and having the energy to just go about, my everyday.
What classes do you remember were you taking back in New York? Because
everything.
I've also read a lot of things that like something like berries is actually really bad for you to do every day, that kind of high intensity cardio workouts. I never know because people say so much different shit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I did everything from HIIT style classes to boxing to jump rope to mat Pilates to reformer Pilates. I mean, like I was doing everything. And I think I was doing everything because I hated everything. It was like such a chore. I was like, oh, I have to go work out. I don't want to go. Everything hurt my body really. And it's like that feeling of walking out. And like, I feel like we were also trained, if you aren't walking out hunched over,
yes,
dripping sweat, I didn't get a good workout. I think fast forward to today, 2024, which I'm very happy about, is I think it's more of a conversation around longevity and health, and what you do today is going to impact your body tomorrow and in 5 years and in 6 years. And I think there are so many more options for people when it comes to fitness, to do in person or to do at home than there were, 10, 5, 6 years ago. And I think people are starting to understand low impact doesn't mean easy, and that, moving slower actually can be harder, and that there is more than just, dripping sweat for that 30, 50 minutes.
This is when I realized I had a problem, is when I left that pvolve class. And like I said, I mean, I actively and honestly will say, like, I have serious body image issues that I've had for a really long time, and every day is like difficult. But when I walked away and I was like, I was so obsessed with the fact that I wasn't dripping sweat and how irritated I was. Yeah. But I don't remember it being like this. Like when I was living in New York at 17 in 2016, I don't remember this movement of, and maybe because of ClassPass and being exposed to all of these classes, it's made people more aware of how many more options there are. Like if you think back to probably like early 2000s, women were very slim, like especially in Europe, right? And they're only really doing Pilates. They're not running on treadmills, sprinting. So what is your thought on that? I mean, how this has evolved and that expectation that if you're not leaving a gym sweating, that you didn't get a good workout, because pvolve is the opposite of that. And I have sweat a lot in your classes.
Yeah, you definitely can.
Depending on which ones.
Yeah. It's also like an internal heat.
Yeah.
Like you're like sweating, like you're hot, but maybe it's not like I'm running on a treadmill for an hour. What are my thoughts on that? I mean, I really think it was shifting this way. I think COVID sped up maybe the more positive kind of conversation around like, I feel that it, like at pvolve, we were almost a little bit ahead of our time. I mean, we were talking about pelvic floor health and coming out with content around that like early when nobody was talking about that. Fast forward to now, all anybody wants to talk about is women's health and working out for each phase of your cycle or menopause. And I think people are starting to understand movement can be medicine, and it actually can also heal and help with a lot of things that you're going through in your life.
Do you think it's a glamorization though behind some of those terms? Or do you think that that's really like people are so much more aware of how to live longer and be healthier?
I think it's starting, I don't think it's a glamorization. I think that kind of during that crazy time we all went through, like your health is in your hands. You have to be your own advocate, and there's nothing more powerful than knowing your body and what feels good for it. And I think also a lot of people like think it's normal to walk around with pain all the time. Like, oh, my shoulder hurts. That's what it is. Oh, I have back pain. It's just what it is. But like, you actually don't have to live that way, nor should you have to live that way. And that certain things that you do can make that worse, or certain things that you do can make it better. And I think that we all do things, whether it's the way that we eat or we take certain supplements. We all know we need X number of hours of sleep. I think the fitness component is catching up to kind of being part of that holistic, routine.
Mm-hmm. You said you haven't been sleeping or when you first got here too well, but do you usually sleep? Like, are you a 9 hours?
Oh, no, not.
Or you're like a 4?
In
your normal life. Like
normal life, like a 7, 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you drink?
Rarely.
Okay.
I mean, not, on my birthday next week I'll drink. Okay. And my brother was just here. We went out and drank. Yeah. But like when I go to Ibiza for a weekend in the summer, I'll drink, but not, regularly.
And is that because it just makes you feel bad, or because of you really actively think about the long-term
No,
effects?
I mean, I could have one drink too, or I wake up and feel like shit. Yeah. My sleep sucks. I'm groggy. My head hurts. So for me, it has to really be worth it.
Yeah.
I'm very much like, I like to cook my own dinner, go to bed at 5:30 and watch my Housewives and go to sleep at a certain time. So for me to break out of that, it's like has to really be worth it.
I've never talked to one successful person who says they can really exist on 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I feel like back in the day.
You could.
Oh, yeah. No, I need the routine. So I appreciate you say that because.
But I think it's also important to note, like I have said before, like at the beginning, I started a wellness company and I was never so unwell. Mm-hmm. Because really in the beginning, when you start any business of your own, you have to be ready to give up like your entire life. Like the amount of holidays, birthdays, most things in my family I missed when I first started this because nothing else mattered to me besides this company. Yeah. And so you're not sleeping. You're like, oh my God, I haven't eaten all day. Shit, I don't care. I got to keep going. I'll do that. I got to respond. There's just, you have to wear every hat. And so you really put yourself last. And I think, what you needed and what the company needed at the beginning, is different to then fast forward 6.5 years later. It's what I need to be successful in order for the company to be successful is so different now than it was in the beginning. So I do need more of those boundaries. I do need, okay, I'm not taking meetings past a certain time. Like, don't call me. My brain's done. I can't think. I'll look at it in the morning. It can wait. And kind of just being, I think everybody should know that kind of going in if you want to start something. pvolve
is your first like real, kind of company.
Yeah.
So would you say that at the beginning though, and I mean, even now, right? Like entrepreneurship, I would say is certainly an obsession. And I think that's why entrepreneurs, as you said, can become so unwell is because you're juggling so many things. And there's an element of like needing to micromanage everything because you're the founder, like you want it done a certain way. How did you even come up with pvolve? Like why that name?
So it stands for personal evolution.
Okay.
And I think we are going through so many different names, and it was always like evolve, evolution was always there because I think specifically women's fitness, it was time for an evolution. I mean, most workouts are designed for men, and then the woman's just supposed to kind of fit right in and do that. But really our bodies are so different and we go through so much more shit and so many different stages of our lives than men do. And we really gear and kind of create our method and workouts for women specifically. I mean, everybody's welcome. Functional fitness has amazing benefits for everybody, but we really felt that was a gap in the market. And then personal, what I want for my fitness, what I'm looking for is different to what you want and different. Everybody's journey is so unique and personal to them. So it felt like it just really worked.
So what's the first step? I mean, how do you even start a fitness company?
First step, I really knew I was using resistance equipment at the time and I wanted something very unique and that would stand out to really work with the method. So that's where the concept of the pvolve came to be. I had a family friend in Michigan who made workout equipment. Like that's what she did for like 20 years. And I was
white labeled?
She would like source different materials and this and kind of be the middle person with bigger brands to her factories overseas. And I've known her for a long time. And so I just had a conversation with her and it kind of just snowballed. And then she made prototypes and samples. And then it was like, well, who's going to run this business? I'm so young. I just have this big idea, but I really needed like a business partner with more experience that would kind of really be a great mentor, role model, but more importantly, help me bring this to life. And then I found and got connected to Julie, who's still my business partner today.
How was that connection made?
Stephanie, who sourced and
Okay.
still makes all of our physical products, connected me to Julie. I mean, very, very lucky with her because I think you definitely get it wrong more times than you get it right. But
With co-founders?
with different,
product.
just people you hire in general,
of course.
I think you get it wrong more than you get it right. And she had a full-time job and kind of did this on the side as a hustle and didn't really leave her full-time job till about 6 months after we launched. But I didn't know what I was doing. And I think sometimes in the beginning that's so beautiful because you are naive and you are like fearless that you're like, fuck it, I'll do this and I don't care and let's just do that because you have no idea. And, people are always like, if you could give your younger self advice, what would you say? I'm like, I wouldn't listen to it. I was so like in this tunnel and just had this vision of what I wanted this to be and kind of how big it could get. And nobody could have stopped me or told me anything at that time.
So the pvolve brand now, I mean, you've got multiple locations, you've got this product, you've got so many online videos and trainers, which I even was doing pvolve at the hotel in Michigan. So that's nice. But when you first started then, so I'm assuming it was perhaps cheap in the sense of you were making these videos and there was no studio.
We did. We had a small studio in Chinatown.
Okay.
And I mean, we launched the same kind of model we have today, minus the franchising.
Okay.
There was online, there was our small little studio, and then you could buy the actual pieces of equipment. And then that morphed into other pieces of proprietary equipment like our P-Band or P3 that morphed into our Chicago studio, our LA studio, which then turned into a conversation of, do we want to open more studios or do we want to go the franchising route? And I think having an in-person and at-home experience was always part of the conversation, even, pre-COVID. I feel like now, I mean, thank God we were set up for that during that time. But I've always been, I want to experience this how I want to experience it, whether I don't have time to make it in person and I only have 20 minutes to do it home, or I am in the city and I do want to come take an in-person class. I think both have such amazing benefits. And it really is, it's the same workout that you do at both places.
Who was the first clientele? I mean, how did you build that base? Because it's new on the block. It's 2017?
We launched in 2017.
2017. So I'm trying to think like back then. I mean, definitely now there's been a way more influx of, I've seen a lot more resistance band training and whatnot. But back then, how did you get people in the door?
I mean, I think being in New York, and our trainers at the time had followings and were bringing people. I think it's also just being very grassroots and you have to just offer a lot of things for free and come, hey, the good thing about working out is most people do want a free class. Mm-hmm. Hey, I want to try this new thing. Okay, I'll try it. You have to deliver on the experience and the workout and the results, but to get someone to want to come take a free workout class, most people, they want to try it,
Mm-hmm. And did they bring their friends?
Yeah. And when I think the product works and you have a great experience, you start to kind of get that flywheel effect of, oh my God, you look amazing. Oh my God, I feel amazing. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? Where are you going? Oh, let me take you. And kind of just really building that grassroots community.
I find that hiring is certainly one of the hardest parts about entrepreneurship. And when you do more of the solo entrepreneurship, you don't have to think about it as much until, you're able to build more of a brand where you have to find people. So those original trainers that you found, I mean, did you have people who you're like, you'd see someone train a class and you're like, I got to get you out of here. This is not good enough. Were you in there doing the classes, training them?
No, I'm not a trainer. Uh-huh. No. But I think it definitely is, a certain style of trainer that can come in and teach. And we have an incredible, amazing team. And now, we have like our chief training officer and all the girls under her, and kind of what that army looks like today is incredible.
So at the beginning then you weren't training these or telling these trainers how to do the workouts?
No.
So who was telling them?
So my co-founder, my ex-husband, was my trainer at the time.
Oh my God, you have an ex-husband?
Yeah.
Wow. That makes you seem like normal, because I'm like, you're just this girl boss. Now you're like a real person.
Really? Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean, I think at the beginning, I really saw how big this could be. And so we started this together. We were married for 2 years. Didn't work out. I think it just moved very quickly. We met, we got engaged, we started business. It was all, I was so young. And I think at the end of the day, we both just really wanted different things professionally, personally, everything.
Being in business with your husband, I can't even
Yeah.
partner anything.
Yeah. I mean, to anybody who can do
hard.
it's very hard. But I think at the beginning it worked. It works till it doesn't work. But he was on more of the training side. I was on more of the business and kind of operations side. And I think what worked then and still works today is I've always been with the member lens of like, what does that look and feel like and that experience like, whether I'm in person or I'm at home? Because sometimes working with, some of our trainers, it's like, oh, well, let's do that and this. But as the member, that experience is totally different. So being able to have that relationship with them, I think has really worked in our benefit.
Would you start another company with a boyfriend, partner, whatever in the future, or no?
I wouldn't say never, but I would probably have a long relationship prior and then maybe go into that.
It's a good mindset to
Yeah,
have.
maybe like 5-6 years,
Okay.
married, 10 years,
Yeah.
and then go into that.
No, that made me think a lot, actually, because I would say in the past 6 months, I've really scaled my business onto another level that I hadn't expected. And the hiring thing, the accounting, the bookkeeping.
Hard, yeah.
And I didn't go to college, so I have that same mindset that's like, there's so much of it I'm good at, but there's certainly times where I'll sit for an hour being like, I don't even, where do you learn this shit? And no one teaches you it. So have you had moments along the way? Because I get you as like very good at the business part, but also not having that traditional schooling. Probably a lot of it's self-taught, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's asking questions. Like at the beginning, maybe I was scared to like, what does that mean? What does that stand for? But you have to just ask, and a lot of Google, what does this stand for? How do you do this? And I think if you have that kind of fire in you to just want to learn. And I remember, my dad would always say to me, like, certain parts of the business will always become scary because you don't know. But you just have to sit down and take the time and be curious. I think that's something that you have to have as an entrepreneur, is you have to be curious. But even to be a successful team member in any company, like I always say, you have to be curious about the business. Like even if you're if you're on the creative team or you're a designer, you should be very like, what are our members saying? Yeah. Go in the Facebook group, see what they're talking about with pvolve. You can't just be in your lane. You should be very curious about the business as a whole, especially in the early days. I think will only help you.
Would you say that pvolve is like has been a slow burn in the sense of you started with that Chinatown location, and then obviously now you've got like a major player who's the face of the company. But there's like, this is not an overnight thing. It has not been 30 days.
No. It still feels so small. And it is so small. I mean, it really feels like we launched like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Why? Because it's been 6 years.
I feel like maybe more people know the name. I mean, even when someone's like, I do pvolve, I'm like, you know what that is? Or I'm wearing like a pvolve hat. And like, do you do pvolve? I'm like, how do you know what that is? Like, cool. It's crazy. I don't think that ever like goes away. But I don't know, when you're in it day to day, and I'm always bad at like actually sitting back and be like, wow, we've signed almost 50 franchise locations. Oh my God, we have this many open. Like, I probably need to do more of that. That would be a good goal for this year.
People
it's hard.
People always say that, like, sit and make sure you really like realize when it's going well. I don't understand how any entrepreneur can sit there. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Like the minute I don't know if you feel that way as well. It seems like you do.
I always like prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah. And even when it's going really good, do I ever just sit there maybe for 5 minutes, I think is my max, which is obviously really bad in the same way that I need to feel like I'm dying at a workout to feel. So it's obviously a process to get to that. But I don't really, again, think I've ever met an entrepreneur who's like, I spend 3 hours a day so grateful of how successful I am.
No.
I mean, I would love to meet somebody who's
Can
like
they give
that.
me some tips?
I know.
Can they give us some tips?
Because you're right. When you're in it, you're in it. And I don't know, and I'm curious if the goal of pvolve is to be sold or to just continue to franchise. But I think even exited founders, I mean, it's like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
Do they really sit there and perhaps they'll go on like a nice vacation or buy some homes? But then like, what are you going to do all day?
Oh, it's this go, it's just there's so much to do. And I think we live in a digital age right now and everything is digital. And like there is this kind of urgency to just, you have an idea, you want to get it out there, you got to move, you got to go. You want to be relevant. There's a trend, you got to hop on it. Like it's just, it really never stops, ever.
Did you have mentors along the way?
I mean, I think, my dad, my brother, my business partner, I've been lucky to have a lot of very successful people around me or have had great careers that I could learn under. But I think also you have to make mistakes and really learn that way as well. That's how I learn a lot. And for me, I've always been taught like, it really doesn't matter also whose idea it is. Like, I'm not one of those people where it has to be my way or it has to be my idea. It's we're all here for the same purpose and the same reason. We want the company to move forward. We want to grow. We want to, have more members. We want to increase engagement. We want to open more studios, right? Like, it doesn't matter whose idea it is as long as it's kind of achieving that goal as well.
If someone is listening to this and perhaps is in their early 20s, maybe living in New York, LA, Chicago, whatnot.
Michigan,
small town, and really wants to pursue entrepreneurship, but doesn't know what their idea is or what to do. What advice would you have for them?
I think also the best kind of way of learning is trying different things. I think being at so many different companies and just learning under people and getting that experience before you go and start something is amazing. If you have an idea that you can't get out of your head, if you've had some type of experience with something or some product or whatever has changed your life and you want to create that, does it work? How's it different? And I think it doesn't have to be perfect to get it out into the world. Have a prototype, have a shitty website like I had and just test it. Are people interested? Is there even an audience for this? I think also when starting something, people think it has to appeal to such a mass audience when it doesn't. It can be very niche, but there is, probably a very targeted niche audience for that or that problem that you're solving. I think it's also just starting's the hardest part. And kind of, if you go through that door, you have no idea where it's going to take you. But the hardest part is just like doing it.
Yeah. I always say anyone who can email 5 new people a day, you never know.
You never know. Like, what's the worst thing? They're not going to respond. They're going to tell you to fuck off. Or they're going to be like, I'll have a conversation with you.
Sure.
And then, hey, maybe let me connect you to this person or let me connect you to that person. You just have to put yourself out there a little bit, which is the scariest part.
So I'm so curious what you think about if you were to have started pvolve in this day and age, right, 2024, for anyone who perhaps wants to start anything in the boutique fitness world, is it too saturated now?
No, I don't think so.
Why?
I think there's room for differentiation. I mean, I think if you look at, it's definitely more saturated now than it was. I mean, everybody I feel like has a program, an ebook, an app, and there's so many ways now for people to experience fitness, whether that is in person, whether that is group classes, whether it is at home. There's so many options for people. And there's so many different styles of movement. And I think as long as you're delivering on something that's different, I don't think so at all.
And as a fitness founder, do you have any specific thoughts on ClassPass? I know I would assume like having people purchasing memberships is like the ideal way to have it done. But ClassPass, I mean, I talked to so many founders who have said such like shitty things about it, but also people find out about it.
I like it. I think if you, with those tools, it's all about how you use it. It's a discovery platform. You can use it in a very specific way. Maybe it's not, you limit it to classes that aren't your peak times or aren't your most popular. And you just have to work with them. And I like it as a discovery platform for sure.
And is that how you find other classes too, or do any market research? I mean, how do you also stay on the pulse of what other workouts are out there, coming out? Anyone trying to copy the pvolve vibe?
I mean, I think it's a combination that just our trainers, our team, just everybody's, hey, have you seen this? Look at what, being curious, definitely. Copying us. I mean, what is it? Imitation's the highest form of flattery.
Yeah.
I don't know why my sayings, my sayings aren't working today. I think that there's a lot of room for people to play. And I think, if people want to come and start something in functional fitness, amazing. The more people that are practicing that way of movement, the better. But, there's only one pvolve.
Of course. You don't strike me as someone who is ever afraid of rejection.
No. No, I don't think so.
And why is that? I mean, how does someone overcome that fear?
I mean, I think you're going to hear no more times than yes. And I think that no fuels me of like, okay, well then I'm going to, prove you wrong. I don't know. Maybe I've always been that way.
Yeah. I would say that I think a lot of entrepreneurship is you've got this intuition. There's this fire, as you said, inside of you. And I think things like rejection or not working out, it doesn't really hit where, as for I think other people, if they go to a traditional job and they're rejected, because you're just so obsessed with like what the possibility is.
Yeah. And I think, this is the only workout I do, 7 years later, whatever. And it's truly has transformed not just the way I look, but the way I feel, my mindset, everything. All the things that I've gone through in the past 6.5 years, like this method has gotten me out of that and have always been there for me. So I am so sickly obsessed with it that you could have said no to me. I'd push you out of the way. Like it didn't matter. I just wanted to share this with more and more people.
Jennifer Aniston is definitely a very specific person to have as your
insane
spokesperson. And I think it was a strength and sculpt. Maybe it was like Friday or Saturday. And that was actually the first time I was in a pvolve class. And I will say like 90%, maybe not 90, the people were like for sure over the age of 40. Because originally when I saw it, I was like, oh, so super cool. Jennifer Aniston's top of the top, right? But I always thought of pvolve as what these younger girls are doing because they're in this boutique fitness world. So how was that connection made? Why her?
I really got an email that was from somebody on our team that was like, hey, can we talk? She was a secret streamer.
She was doing it online. Okay.
She saw one of her friends. Oh my God, you look amazing. What are you doing? I do pvolve. What's that? Ordered the equipment, was working out at home. Completely fell in love with it. Body changed, body felt better, and her team called us.
Wow, it was.
And I thought I was actually getting like punked. I'm like, who's playing a sick joke on me? Like,
and the email went directly to you or somebody on your team?
On our team, yeah. And a couple of months later, like she wants to get involved with you guys, and she doesn't know how more people don't know about this, and wants to help bring awareness, and wants to partner with you, and it's like beyond a dream come true because you truly like this doesn't even happen in your dreams. Like it's unheard of, It's just been absolutely incredible. I definitely, just the awareness that she's brought, obviously. But I think her passion and dedication to this workout is what's so inspiring. I think her story being very similar to mine, having a lot of, old injuries in her body, beating her body up when she was younger. And then, if something is flaring up, I don't want to not move my body. I don't want to not work out. I still want to feel those little muscles, fired up and my arm shaking and my abs shaking. But I don't want to do any more damage to my body. And so I think with pvolve, she found that answer of, I look amazing, but I feel 10 times better. And she's even said, I wish I knew about this in my early 20s. I look better than I did back then. And she just really wanted to have more people try it.
Did you know, or did anyone tell you who the friend was that told her about it? Like, how did that friend find pvolve originally?
I think like an ad during COVID or something, like a Facebook ad or something.
So most people are streamers or they're going into studios?
Well, now that we are starting to have more and more studios opening up, there definitely is a crossover member who does both. I think there will always only be an in-person studio goer. Like, no, I will never do it at home. I like the accountability. I like the community. Then there's always going to be an at-home streamer that's like, no. But I think what's exciting to see is like, oh my God, I've been doing pvolve for 3 years. There's a studio coming to my town. I can't wait to go. And then having that flexibility, to still be able to get your pvolve in, whether it's at home or in person.
I'd say the franchising model is actually really interesting too. A friend of mine started Bar 3 way back in the day, Sadie Lincoln, and pvolve that model, but still maintaining the consistency of not only the brand, but also the same vibe in every studio. And I find that is so hard to do across the board, whether it's a fitness studio, even SoulCycle, like when they were acquired. I hate SoulCycle now. It's just not the same vibe. It feels so mass produced in a way, that workout. So how have you been able to have 50 locations?
Not all open yet.
Not all open yet, but like on track for 50 and maintain the same like integrity experience when you walk into a pvolve studio.
I mean, it's very, there's a process you have to follow. Has to look a certain way, feel a certain way. Our training process is very rigorous. It's 100 hours of training, and then there's different, quality assurance checks that the trainers do. I think we have really taken our time with like our first 10 that will open, because we don't have all the answers. This is our first time doing it. We've hired a great team that has the experience from that world, but there's going to be things that we get wrong and we want to learn from, and how do we not make that same mistake again? But it's so exciting. Like, I knew nothing about the franchise world, nothing. But to have these women, our first, franchisee was a streamer for 5 years. Like, I'm obsessed with pvolve. I want to bring this to my town in Nashville. Oh my God, that's amazing. And I think to have these incredible women who are so passionate and dedicated, to this brand and to this method, like I am and like our team is, it makes it so exciting, because I could open up 50 studios, but those locations are only as good as the studio manager and the team that's in place, versus you find these franchisees that have more skin in the game. I mean, that's, even though it's a pvolve studio, it's their baby, it's their business. They're running it every day. So it's really exciting.
Is the goal for pvolve for you to exit as a founder, for the company to get acquired, or do you want to do this business for the rest of your life?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think for me, I want to get this and grow this as big as it can. And I don't think we're even close to being there yet. And I don't like to think too, far out. Yeah.
Rachel, what makes you fearless?
Ooh, what makes me fearless? God, that's a hard one. I would say just maybe like the drive and really hearing from our members and just how this method has transformed their lives every day kind of gets me going and keeps me going.